Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The World Today, where we bring you the latest updates from around the world. I'm Ram Morsi, and I'm joined this afternoon by Mr. Raouf Gaafar, a financial and economic expert. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Let's start off with our first news item from the Daily News of Egypt that reads, Egypt's central bank floats pound, raises key interest rates 30 basis points. The news item itself reads, Egypt's central bank decided today to freely float the pound and raise key interest rates and announced a set of measures aimed at alleviating the dollar shortage and stabilizing the country's fledgling economy. The Central Bank of Egypt said its decision to liberalize the exchange rate as part of a government reform program that aims at trimming the budget deficit and cutting public debt. It added in a statement on its official website that the new move is meant to eliminate trading the currency on the black market, boosting the economy and achieving higher growth rates. The measures included raising key interest rates by 300 basis points. The overnight deposit rate for the overnight lending rate and the rate of CBE main operation have been raised to 15.75%, 15.25% and 15.25% respectively. The CBE said earlier Thursday that it had temporarily devalued the Egyptian pound currency by 48% to 13 pounds to the dollar until 1 p.m. local time, when it will hold an exceptional forex auction and allow the supply and demand mechanism to set the price. How do you see this move? I mean, yesterday on the black market, the dollar had, the Egyptian pound's value towards the dollar had increased dramatically. How do you see the liberalized or the floating of the Egyptian pound?
This is a move that had to be taken sooner or later, so they took it sooner rather than later. As you rightly said, the price of the parallel market was increasing very rapidly, and it reached levels, extremely high. So there had to be a measure taken by the Central Bank of Egypt to put an end to this dilemma that is really madding the market. So I think this is a right move, a wise decision, and taken in the right time, and hopefully it will be fruitful to the Egyptian economy, of course.
But one of the reasons why the black market was, such high demand for the black market currency was the fact that banks could not provide people with foreign currency. With this floating, does this also mean that it's easily available to find foreign currency?
I'm sure the Central Bank of Egypt has taken some measures before he took this decision, and probably he availed enough hard currency, dollars I should say, to cover the demand for the coming at least few weeks, if not months. So the reason that the price went up is very simple, the supply and demand. And as you said a few minutes earlier, that now it is left, the price is left to supply and demand. So it was, we needed dollars for our imports and what have you, and we did not have enough to cover this by the Egyptian banks. So people had to go outside and seek their foreign currency so that they can, so their businesses can go on. But now they will address themselves to the banks, and the banks will be responsible to avail the hard currency they need for their imports.
But how will we deal with the dollar shortage? The situation hasn't changed much. We still have an issue with dollar shortage.
Yes, but this decision is not the end. Yes. This is the beginning. Some other regulations, I'm sure, will be taken in the coming few days. At least organizing and regulating the imports. A lot of imports are for unnecessary and not essential goods, And so the banks will give, of course, priority to the essential goods and to the necessary imports. And the others will not enjoy the same privilege as the... you mentioned again that the deposit and withdrawal for firms and individuals will be open with the banks, except for the prior limitations that were put on the non-essential goods importers.
I know that part of the World Bank loan that we want to apply for as a country, part of the deal was to free float the Egyptian pound. Do you think this is going to help in securing this loan, and will this loan actually be useful for the country?
Well, yes, and the idea of the loan being useful to the country is, of course, the answer is yes, but it's not only that. Just securing a loan or having the World Bank accept, and the IMF, accept to lend us money, it means that we are good borrowers. This is a certificate of a confirmation that we are, our economy is stable, and this will encourage foreign investors to come and invest as long as the World Bank and the IMF have entrusted us with loans. Then it means that we are capable of repaying the loans and the economy can withstand. So this is a good step towards the increasing of the direct investments coming from abroad, from investors.
And free-floating the Egyptian pound helps investors.
This was a situation, a very strange situation, having having a parallel market with a slight difference can be accepted. Well, it's not right, but can be accepted. But the difference was
dramatic,
humongous, so it couldn't go on that way. It had to stop.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next item that we have from the Daily Star of Lebanon that reads, Iraqi Shiite forces to cut off West Mosul today, according to the commander. The news item itself reads, Shiite forces in Iraq aim to cut off the western supply route used by Daesh out of Mosul. The leader of the largest militia told Iraqi television. According to Hadi Al-Amri, the leader of the Badr organization, he said that the first stage of the operations, that is cutting the supply route of the enemy between Tal Afar and Mahalbiya district reaching Mosul. Badr is the largest militia in the popular mobilization umbrella group of the Shiite forces. He said the militants also intended ultimately to cut off the main highway between Mosul and Tal Afar. Said that the route was a priority because it was one used by militants since they took over Mosul 2 years ago. Tal Afar lies about 55 kilometers west of Mosul on the way to the IS-controlled region and of neighboring Syria, cutting off the western side city while leaving Daesh enclosed on for access. Obviously, one of the top news items today is Mosul and recapturing Mosul. What does this mean for the Iraqi government if they are able to capture Mosul in the near future?
They will, eventually they will. And of course the plan to regain Mosul from the Daesh came very much to the liking of the Shiites, of course, because they are, these are Sunnis and these are Shiites. Unfortunately, there is a conflict going on between the different sects, and this is bad. But anyway, so it came to their liking, and of course they will help the Iraqi army by cutting the line of supplies coming from the west to Mosul, so weakening the Daesh in Mosul and making it faster and easier for the Iraqi army to gain back the city.
Iraq obviously is troubled by a number of things. One of them is Daesh. And also one of the problems that they're facing is corruption and economic and financial problems. How do you think that they're going to tackle these problems in Iraq?
It will take time, but let's first think about coming to an end for military conflict. This comes as a first priority.
It becomes complicated because of situation.
It gets complicated, but I think, I mean, I don't wish, but it looks like that at the end of the day, Iraq will be divided into several countries. But again, let's end the killings, end the war, and then look at whatever internal problems, whatever corruption, whatever political internal problems can be dealt with and can take its time. But let's finish with the existence of Daesh on their soil.
Okay, let's move to the next item that we have from the Gulf today. That reads, Putin offers fresh truce in Aleppo. The news item itself reads, the Russian president on Wednesday offered a new unilateral humanitarian pause for Syrian war-ravaged Aleppo, urging rebels to use it to leave the city's eastern besieged district. Syrian rebels quickly dismissed Vladimir Putin's initiative. Putin has ordered that the aid corridor, which Russia had opened earlier, also be open on Friday for longer hours from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., along with two new exit routes, for the rebels to leave eastern Aleppo in order to prevent a senseless loss of life, according to the Defense Ministry. Civilians and sick wounded would be allowed to leave the corridor. Moscow said Syrian authorities would ensure that Syrian troops pulled back from the two corridors designated for rebels. Syria doesn't seem to have an end. I mean, the situation keeps getting worse and worse.
Sad. Aleppo particularly is becoming now a humanitarian crisis. But this is obvious. I mean, the rebels are sitting there and they are sheltered in Aleppo. They are very happy to have the civilians because they use them as human shields, and they prevent Russia and the Syrian government to fight them. Fearing of the losses in civilians particularly. So it was expected that this truce could not have been accepted by the rebels at any point of time. And they are happy where they are. They might accept from time to time to get some humanitarian supplies to the people who could not afford to leave Aleppo. But they will never accept to have a long time truce.
But the main issue really with Syria is not just, I mean, Aleppo obviously is a humanitarian crisis, but the problem with Syria is it's an actual proxy war. It's very similar to what happened during the Cold War with the, two superpowers battling it out. Well, how does this end, and what does it mean for the people living there?
Foreign intervention was the cause of the war and still is, and it's a matter of interest. All the superpowers are looking for their own interest, and unfortunately if they picked this spot to sort of I mean, as a battlefield between the two. So it's really a demonstration of who's going to win, as a matter of maybe at the end of the day their interests, but it's a sort of a show, a power show, and that was the cause of what has happened and still is happening in Syria, foreign intervention. So hopefully they put their heads together, maybe after the American elections, and they find a way to leave the Syrians decide for themselves if they want to keep united, if they want to divide their countries in 10 pieces, but let the Syrians decide.
Okay, let's move to the next item we have from the World Bulletin that reads, Hariri set to return as Lebanon's prime minister. The news item itself reads, Lebanon's new president Michel Aoun began consultations to select a prime minister on Wednesday as the country seeks to end 2 years of political paralysis. Aoun, a former army general who was elected on Monday, will hold meetings for 2 days with political groups. Saad al-Hariri served as prime minister between 2009 and 2011. And he is expected to return as the head of the government. Obviously, this news item is not updated. He has been elected as prime minister.
As a matter of fact, this was the deal from the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
He was very clear, Hariri. He said, I will back you to the new president, of course,
yes.
Michel Aoun. He said, I'll back you on one condition, that I become prime minister. And that's exactly what happened.
Yes.
So let's hope that the stability will continue, and the entente between the different parties, Hezbollah from one side and the future from the other, and so on and so forth, will stay as long as it needs for Lebanon to come back to real stability, because they suffered for decades now.
For the last about almost 2 years, they haven't had a president or a proper government for a while.
Yeah.
How did this affect the Lebanese, political life and the economy? Obviously, Lebanon has suffered tremendously economically, especially because of the influx of refugees as well. What does this mean for them?
Well, economy, I think the Lebanese people are beautiful people, and they have gone through a lot of crises, and they went out. As far as the economy is concerned, I have no big worries about it. Of course, they had a complete political vacuum over the last 2 years, and it couldn't go on anymore. So it was good that they put their head together and decided to at least have a full-size country,
yes,
with a president and a prime minister and what have you.
Okay, let's move on to our final item from the Khaliji Times, reading Yemenis protest UN peace roadmap. The news item itself reads, thousands of Yemenis protested against a UN plan to end a 19-month conflict between the rebels and the government, which the president rejected as not a map for peace. He stated that they reject the plan of the UN Special Envoy. Reading one of the banners carried of the demonstrators, no to an initiative that legitimizes a coup. President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi rejected the envoy's peace plan, saying it only opens a door towards more suffering and war. Hadi's envoy, the backing of a Saudi-led Arab coalition that launched a military campaign in March 2015 after the rebels closed in on his refuge in Aden, forcing him to flee to Riyadh. The contents of the roadmap, which the envoy presented to the rebels on Tuesday, have not been made public, but informed sources say it calls for agreement on naming a new vice president after the rebels withdraw from the capital and other cities and hand over heavy weapons to the third party. Hadi would then transfer power to the vice president, who would appoint a new prime minister to form a government in which the north and south of Yemen would have equal representations. I don't think this plan doesn't seem terrible. It's not the worst plan on
well, it doesn't seem terrible, but they are not rational, because we have a government, we have a legitimate government, supposedly, that should be running the whole country. And on the other side, the rebels, they don't want, and they feel that they have the sole right to again rule the country. So either they cut it in two and
go back to south and
north, or if they want to keep it as one country, let God help them, because as I said, every party, I mean, the legal government, legitimate government, supposedly is the one who have.
But there's no problem in early elections. I mean, Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi could, stand for elections again if he wants to.
Okay, but the Houthis, they won't let down. They will keep on fighting until they reach their goal. Well, their hope to lead the country. So I don't think that early election would matter. It's a matter of either you take a part and I take the other, or let's keep on fighting. But any other thing, I don't think it will work.
Okay, well, unfortunately, so we ran out of time. So, Mr. Raouf Gaafar, a financial analyst and economic expert, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, my dear.
This brings us to the end of this episode of The World Today, but stay tuned for more updates on Nile TV.